Welcome to United Taste of America, Connecticut style. Today we find ourselves in the great state of Connecticut. Connecticut was one of the 13 original colonies, largely settled by Puritans from England, and later became the 6th state in the Union. Later, Connecticut had a huge influx of Italian immigrants that came here to work in the factories and plants. Connecticut has a rich culinary history. They have a hot dog trail, a donut trail, but the food they're most known for is pizza. And we're here today to celebrate one of the great restaurants in all of America on their 100th birthday, the great Frank Pepe's Pizzeria in New Haven, Connecticut. I'm here with Francis Rosselli, the grandson of Frank Pepe. Thank you for having us today.
You're very welcome. Pleasure to have you.
Well, if these walls could talk, your grandfather started something pretty special.
He did.
Now, he came here from Italy.
From Italy.
In what year?
He came as a young boy, I would say a teenager at 16 years old. In 1909 was his first time here. And he came with the help, his assistance of his half-brother, Alessio. And so he was here, and then we went back. He returned to Italy as a conscripted soldier for World War I.
And fought in the First World War. I'm a big fan of Hemingway's Farewell to Arms, and that really tells the story of the Italian army fighting in the mountains against the Austrians.
That's exactly where he was. That's where he was.
That's great. Yeah. But then he comes back.
He comes back. Well, he gets married.
Okay, I think he married the right woman.
He married the right woman. She was absolutely essential and fundamental to the success of the business as well. And they came 1919. They arrived in 1920. So they got married in September 1919, and they traveled in December of that year, and then they arrived in 1920.
Now, he was from a town near Naples, and obviously Naples is very famous for their pizza.
Yep.
And so he came here, and what led him to opening this place?
Well, he initially, when he first came here, I guess the story is that he began to work in a factory. And in this case, it was Sargent's Key Factory, lock and key factory. He didn't like it, obviously. And he went back. He had some skills, baking skills in Maioti, the town of Maioti. As you mentioned, is south of Naples, southwest of Naples, on the Amalfi Coast. And when he returned, he worked for bread, people who made bread, and he learned his skills from that point, and decided to open up his own business.
And it's interesting, the bread making led to the uniqueness of your dough here, because y'all make it more like a bread process than a traditional pizza dough process.
That's
right?
correct, right. Yeah, sure, that's a good question, good observation. These are bread ovens that we use. They were originally coke fired, and now we converted to using coal, anthracite coal. And like you said, they were intended for bread, baking bread, which is how he began. He began by making the bread first, before he had decided to finally make the decision to change to making pizza only. So there's a difference from the Neapolitan style wood-fired oven. The dough is different, it's wetter. The heat is more centralized, it's more intense in a way, it's more consistently intense. The ovens themselves have a lot more mass, meaning the brick themselves is a lot of mass and internal, to maintain the internal temperature as well as, and to provide the baking surface for the pizza.
And so it's an interesting kind of crust in that it still has a crust, but it also has a chew.
It has a chew. Yeah. Yep. That's another good observation. Yeah. It doesn't. The dough is a very moist dough. It has a high moisture content, and with the intensity of the coal fired, that synergy, if you will, or that combination of the the humidity in the dough and the intensity of the fire provides that kind of still providing a chew as opposed to just, a crusty texture, if you will. Very.
Now, originally he made what y'all still make, which is a tomato pie. And it's interesting that because you didn't have refrigeration, I understand, you didn't use what a lot of people use, which is mozzarella cheese. You used, what, pecorino romano cheese?
Pecorino romano cheese.
Right.
That was the very first pie. It was just plain tomato, oil, garlic, maybe some black pepper. And that's how they had, without the mozzarella.
Without the mozzarella.
And also conjoined with that was the anchovy pizza, which was just tomato pie. And I don't think initially we didn't combine the pecorino with the anchovy.
Okay.
It was separate. It was just with a little pinch of oregano,
right,
as I recall.
Right.
People like cheese now, so we add a little more cheese to the anchovy pizza.
Well, you're famous for a lot of different pizzas here, but at some point in time, you did something really unique. You started making a white clam pizza.
That's correct.
Let's talk about that story.
Okay, that's a great story. We served clams on the half shell, Rhode Island clams on the half shell. It was a first food as an appetizer. Very popular. People ate raw food back in that time. So as a young boy, I learned how to shuck clams early on at 12 years old, 13 years old. And I learned the skill, the craft of shucking a clam. It's not so easy if you want to get it right. Natural evolution came of that, from that, serving of that first food, the clams on the half shell, to the idea of putting it on pizza. And it came from Grandpa. And that's how it started. Now, there are several stories out there. I can't attest to the truth of any of them.
I would never let the truth get in the way of a good story.
The story is that, Grandpa made that decision to experiment and try to put it on the pizza. It became a great success. More of an in-house success. It's just started very slowly. Its success sort of got catapulted by a wonderful book by Jane and Michael Stern called Road Food. And two wonderful people, delightful people, and they wrote about the clam pie. And they wrote about other, throughout in terms of what the work that you're doing right now with this filming, that they also compiled a book with all these wonderful obscure eateries, unknown eateries, as part of maybe taking a road trip and then maybe exploring and enjoying these eateries on the fly, if you will. So that was very important to branching out, or at least having people become more aware of the clam pie. And I believe through their syndication, they started writing on a syndicated level as authors and journalists. I recall USA Today being probably one of the journals, one of the newspapers that I remember them being published in. And I think that's how it grew.
Well, let's go back to the kitchen now, and you show me how to make the famous...
Right, let's try it. Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
All right.
So this is the best part of my job. It's a tough job, but somebody has to do it. Clam, that's amazing. And that's the #1 dish in the state of Connecticut. Francis, it's wonderful, and I can't thank you enough for having us here today on United Taste of America.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure to have you.
So that's Frank Pepe's Pizzeria here in New Haven, Connecticut. Just another stop on United Taste of America.